What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got our week 1 fantasy football wide receiver starts and sits for every single matchup, so make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section, do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. Before getting into our breakdown, I want to highlight the sponsor of today's video, OddsJam. OddsJam continues to be the place that I use for all of my sports betting research, from the NFL, NBA, MLB, to daily fantasy and everything in between. But don't just take my word for it. Let me show you firsthand all the amazing tools OddsJam has to offer. Starting with their positive EV tool, which identifies situations where a single sportsbook has mispriced their line compared to the rest of the market. They're basically willing to pay a lot more so that you bet with them compared to the other sportsbook. At the end of the day, you're getting the best odds, essentially a mathematical edge and guaranteed money in the long run. But also available is OddsJam's arbitrage tool, which shows situations where the market is so mispriced that you can bet on both sides and guarantee a risk-free return. OddsJam's calculators show you exactly how much you have to bet on the over and under and what the respective guaranteed risk-free return would be. There's also OddsJam's Sportsbook tool, which consolidates all available market info, over 200 sportsbooks, and provides updates in real time and allows you to see line movement. But my personal favorite is their Fantasy Optimizer tool, which is great for those using PrizePicks, Underdogs, or other daily fantasy sites, as you get to see discrepancies between all of these sportsbooks. Imagine, PrizePicks has a Patrick Mahomes line at 200.5 passing yards, and all other books like FanDuel and Underdog have this line at 230 passing yards. Well, getting the over 200.5 on PrizePicks would be an absolute steal. Guess what? OddsJam does that for you. And the good news is, if you sign up today and use our code PIGSKIN, check the link and promo code in the description of this video, you will get 25% off your first month. OddsJam also has a 7-day free trial, so you get to try before you buy. So don't waste any more time and sign up for OddsJam using our code PIGSKIN today. And we kick off week 1, the start of the season, on Thursday with the Lions at the Chiefs. And here, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I'm only really kind of excited for the Lions side of things as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the big name. Drafted as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. I think he's going to get a lot of targets, especially the first 6 weeks of the season while Jameson Williams is out. And considering that the Lions are playing the Chiefs, I think this could be one of the higher scoring games of the week. There's going to be a number 2 guy here offensively for the Lions that gets involved. Right now, if I had to put money on it, I think it's going to be Marvin Jones. I think he's a little bit more talented and consistent than a Josh Reynolds, a Khalif Raymond. You could even argue there might be a third guy here between Reynolds and Raymond, but I think it's just too tough to determine. I also think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be involved, maybe a little bit of Sam Laporta at the tight end position. So for that reason, I've got Reynolds and Khalif Raymond currently as sits. And then for the Chiefs, yes, Patrick Mahomes is throwing these guys the football, best quarterback in the NFL, but I mean, we know Travis Kelce is going to get his, and then afterwards, it's going to be spread out, and there's a lot of guys there, from Kadarius Toney to MVS to Sky Moore. I don't think that any one of these guys is going to absolutely dominate. You know, it'll be interesting to see, though, because the Lions' defense not that great. If one of these guys is hyper-targeted, something like that, if one of them can emerge as the number 1 wide receiver for this offense, we've been waiting for it to happen ever since Tyreek Hill left. Hasn't really occurred yet. We didn't really see anything all that special from these guys last year. That's why I'm not going out on a limb and going to say start any one of them here over the other. I think right now they're sits, be patient, see how it unfolds, and then we can look at it starting week 2. Then Bengals at the Browns. You know, I think that from the Bengals side of things, it's going to be pretty simple week in and week out. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Chase is the number 1 dude. Obviously, he's going to be the most consistent. T. Higgins, the 1B to Jamar Chase's 1A. There will be some weeks where Tyler Boyd, who I currently have as a sit, does a little bit better than T. Higgins, sure. But I think at the end of the day, when we look at the entirety of the seasons, T. Higgins is going to be that number 2 guy and finish much better than Tyler Boyd, much more consistent. Chase, a number 1 wide receiver on the week. Higgins, I'd say a mid-level number 2. For the Browns, Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore. I'm willing to start Elijah Moore. I'm sitting Donovan Peoples-Jones and Cedric Tillman. To me, Amari Cooper is the number one guy every single week. I think he is a low-end wide receiver one, depending on what Deshaun Watson we see. And then Elijah Moore, I mean, to nobody's surprise, I have him as a start. I've been high on him all off-season long. I think he can be a very nice complement to Amari Cooper. I have him, especially in PPR formats, as a mid-level wide receiver 2 on the week. Then Texans at the Ravens. I really don't like this game as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. I'm only willing to start Nico Collins here for the Texans, and even that's questionable. I think whoever you start here for Houston, they're not going to be any better than a mid-level wide receiver 2, and even that might be optimistic. I just happen to think that Nico Collins is the best wide receiver currently that they have on this roster. I don't care that Robert Woods is a veteran. Noah Brown, sure, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud said draft Tank Dell. Maybe that'll mean something a couple weeks from now, but I don't think he's going to get all the opportunities that some people are hoping immediately out of the gate. Robert Woods looked washed last season. I don't believe in CJ Stroud. I think this is going to be a tough outing versus this Ravens defense. And then for the Ravens, all these guys I currently have as sits. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, OBJ. I think there's just too many mouths to feed. Let's not forget about Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. He's never been a guy that's going to air out the football a bunch, have a bunch of pass attempts. And versus this Texans defense, I think the Ravens are going to do what they do best, and that's run the football. I think it's going to be a big day on the ground for them. So I'm not really expecting all that much from Zay Flowers, a rookie, Rashad Bateman, who didn't get a lot of volume last year, and then OBJ, who I personally think, again, is probably seeing his best days already behind him. So for that reason, really don't like this game for fantasy wide receiver purposes. Moving on, Bucs at the Vikings. I only want to start the Vikings wide receivers here. Justin Jefferson, obviously number one wide receiver. For fantasy purposes, going to be a top 5 guy pretty much all week long for the entirety of the year. Jordan Addison, also a guy that I've been bullish. Yes, he's a rookie, but no more Adam Thielen. TJ Hawkinson a little bit banged up. The Vikings aren't scared to give opportunities to the young guys playing opposite Justin Jefferson. I think that's going to open up a lot of things. I think we could see a low to mid-level wide receiver 2 performance here from Addison. And then for the Bucs, though, look, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, elite talents, but when you have Baker Mayfield throwing the football, I just cannot trust any one of these guys. If you force me to pick one, I would say Chris Godwin. I think he's going to get more volume, but again, offensively, without Tom Brady here at the quarterback position, we've seen what Baker Mayfield is, or rather isn't, for several years now. And for that reason, I do not have faith in Mike Evans and or Chris Godwin unless Baker Mayfield has an insane turnaround and can, sustain consistency. Afterwards, Panthers at the Falcons. Only one wide receiver here I want to start. That is Adam Thielen. Yes, the guy is old as dirt, but he's the most experienced guy. We saw the connection between him and Bryce Young, and I think he can still get it done. I think he's going to lead the Panthers in terms of targets in this game, probably all season long as well. There's a couple banged up guys here for the Panthers. Terrace Marshall, DJ Shark, Jonathan Mingo is a popular name as far as rookie wide receivers, but I don't think that this is going to be a huge scoring game, to be honest with you guys. And Adam Thielen is the main guy I believe in. I think other guys like Hayden Hurst, Miles Sanders are going to get opportunities as well. Then for the Falcons, might be a surprise, but Drake London I have as a sit. And the main reason is I think he's going to draw a lot of J.C. Horn in this game. J.C. Horn, a very, very good cornerback. He hasn't managed to stay healthy these last couple of years, but we've still seen him in action. And when he's healthy, he can get the job done. I think that's what we're going to see here versus Drake London. And honestly, for the Falcons, outside of Drake London, there's not too many other wide receivers to get excited about. Then Cardinals at the Commanders. For Arizona, I will start Marquise Brown. I think he's just going to get a boatload of targets. And to me, that is valuable. If you're in a standard format league and you want to shy away from him, then okay, I guess that makes sense. But in PPR formats, I think that volume is king. I've said that before. He'll get his opportunities even without Kyler Murray. For Washington, Terry McLaurin, if he plays dealing with a turf toe situation, I will start him. If not, Jahan Dotson. I think is going to be a very, very decent start. But again, here for Washington, the Cardinals stink. I think they can run the ball all over them. So I'm not getting too cute here. I'm not starting a third wide receiver in Curtis Samuel for Washington. And then for Arizona, you could argue Marquise Brown is kind of risky enough to start, even though, again, I'm a believer. But with that being said, Rondale Moore and Greg Dortch, without Kyler Murray, to me, they are not somebody that we want to look at. Moving on, Jags at the Colts. I will start Calvin Ridley. I will start Christian Kirk. For Jacksonville, the Colts defense does not scare me. Trevor Lawrence continues to take the next step forward. I think both these guys can be low-end wide receiver ones on the week. For Indy, Michael Pittman. We'll see what Anthony Richardson has, but to me, Pittman is the best wide receiver on this team, the most experienced guy. And I think the connection is going to be there. So I'll take a chance on Pittman. I think he's a mid-level wide receiver too, depending on what Anthony Richardson shows us. And then Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. Right now, I just, I don't have enough to go off of for this Indy offense and Anthony Richardson to say, okay, confidently start a number 2 guy here for Indy at the wide receiver position. And to be fair, I think there's a big drop-off from Pittman to these other guys, so I have both of them as sits. Afterwards, 49ers at the Steelers. I only want to start Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers. Yes, that might be a shock. Deebo Samuel, a sit. But it seems like a century ago when he had his breakout year, a lot of it was because of his success on the ground. Now they've got Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, so Deebo Samuel won't be used as much. As far as pass catching, I also think that Brandon Ayuk is a better pass catcher. I think that you've got George Kittle. I think you've got Christian McCaffrey. To me, Deebo Samuel just isn't going to see enough targets. So I would rather sit him. Sure, there's going to be some weeks where he does fine and he puts up numbers, but I think he's going to be way too inconsistent. I'd rather go with the consistency in Ayuk here. For Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. I think Deontay Johnson is your PPR guy, similar to last year. George Pickens, more of the standard-suited wide receiver. I think both are low to mid-level wide receiver 2s, depending on what we can get from Kenny Pickett and if he takes a step forwards. But either way, there's going to be some boomer bust tied to them. This 49ers defense is no joke, so keep that in mind. Then we go to the Titans at the Saints. For the Titans, only one name here, DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, I think he's past his prime, but it's really the only thing the Titans have as far as wide receivers. I don't believe in Treylon Burks. I don't really believe in Ryan Tannehill all that much, but he's still good enough to get DeAndre Hopkins a bunch of targets, so that's what I'm looking at, mainly in PPR formats. I think Hopkins can be a mid to high-end wide receiver too. For the Saints, I love Chris Olave. I've been saying it all offseason long. I think he has a breakout potential this year, wide receiver 1 type of numbers. Then Michael Thomas, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be somebody that puts up solid low to mid-level wide receiver 2 numbers all season long. Afterwards, Raiders at the Broncos. Devontae Adams, obviously you're going to start him. And then I should think Hunter Renfrow can be a pleasant surprise this year, bounce back from last year. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to potentially revitalize him a little bit. We'll see, though. Definitely a little bit more of a dart throw. I don't believe in Jacoby Myers here for the Raiders. But after this week 1, I think it'll be a good thing to look back on and see how these guys were utilized outside of Devontae Adams. For the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy a little bit banged up right now. If he plays, I'll take a chance on him. I'm not afraid of the Raiders' secondary. And then Cortland Sutton, again, somebody that I think is going to be the wide receiver 2 on this offense, especially if Jeudy is limited. I like the upside there. And then Marvin Mims, a rookie wide receiver, kind of been making the rounds here in the offseason. I just don't believe enough in him right now, starting the season, to say that he is a start. Then Eagles at the Patriots. I only like the Eagles side of things here for the wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. There's going to be some inconsistencies, yes, but both these guys have high upside. Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to pick up where he left off. The Patriots do tend to do a good job of, kind of limiting big plays, things like that, limiting your best players. So we'll see. Maybe not huge numbers from both of these guys, but either way, much better than what we're looking at the Patriots, who really right now, Juju Smith-Schuster, the main name they have there. I don't believe in Mac Jones. I don't believe in Juju Smith-Schuster all that much. I don't think he can be the number 1 wide receiver on a team. He kind of struggled with that last year with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I think it's not going to get any better with Mac Jones, so I just don't believe in this New England offense with Mac Jones at quarterback. Juju and all the other wide receivers for New England are sits for me. Then Rams at Seahawks. Look, we still don't know what's going on with Cooper Kupp and his hamstring injury. If he plays, obviously you start him, but if I had to guess, I think he sits out week 1 and potentially more. But here's a name that you might or might not have heard of, Puka Nacua for the Rams. I think he's going to be a sleeper. Yes, he's a rookie. I don't care. I think that he is somebody that's going to get a lot of opportunities. I don't believe in the other pass catchers for the Rams. Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell. Van Jefferson is a big play guy, boomer bust type of deal. So I think Puka Nacua is going to be somebody that's very, very intriguing while Cooper Kupp is potentially hurt. He is a dart throw, but I'm willing to take a chance on him if you're desperate. For Seattle, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I'll start both of them. Jackson Smith and Jigba a little bit banged up right now. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play this game. We'll see. That's still not 100% certain, but Metcalf and Lockett, I think this is a good opportunity for both of them. High-end wide receiver twos, but then we'll have to reevaluate once JSN returns. Then Dolphins at the Chargers. Great game for fantasy wide receivers. Could, again, be contender for the highest scoring game of the week. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, no-brainers for the Dolphins. For the Chargers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. For the Chargers, there's some other names here to know. Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer. Palmer filled in very nicely last year when guys were hurt. Quentin Johnston, high upside rookie. But what we've heard from camp is that Palmer is getting more opportunities. Now, if I had to guess, though, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are the top two guys. The sits in Johnston and Palmer are only going to become factors if there's injuries. You've still got Austin Eckler. You've still got Gerald Everett. So keep all of that in mind. But either way, I think the starts here all can be, at worst case scenario, high-end wide receiver twos on the week. Then Packers at the Bears. I only really want to start DJ Moore. And, even he's a little bit risky just because we don't know what Justin Fields we're going to get. We can't depend on big play abilities like we saw from DJ Moore in the preseason. This is real action, so it's going to take more than just one screen pass to go for 60 yards and a touchdown for him to be fantasy relevant, but I'll still take a chance on him. I think the talent is there. But then I'm sitting everyone else. Look, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs for the Packers, the top two wide receivers. A lot of people like Christian Watson, what they saw from him last year. But with no more Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, I don't believe in Jordan Love. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I hope so, and Watson will be fantasy relevant again. But for now, until I see it, they are sits. Then for the Bears, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. This offense can't sustain more than one fantasy relevant pass catcher. It's as simple as that. So Mooney and Claypool are sits. And then Giants, Cowboys. I'm only starting the Cowboys side of things here. CeeDee Lamb, Brendan Cooks. I think Michael Gallup is going to be the number 3 wide receiver now with Brendan Cooks added. CeeDee Lamb, borderline top 10 wide receiver. Brendan Cooks is going to be a low to mid-level wide receiver 2. And then again, Michael Gallup, I think he's going to be a little bit phased out. There's going to be some weeks where him and Brendan Cooks, kind of alternate, but I think Cooks is the better talent. And then I'm sitting on the Giants wide receivers. You've just got a bunch of mid guys here, let's be honest. From guys like Darius Slayton, from guys like Sterling Shepard, Wendell. It's just not elite guys here, and that's what has me worried. I think instead you're going to see a lot of Darren Waller, a lot of Saquon Barkley, a lot of Daniel Jones running the football, and I'm just out on the Giants wide receivers. And then finally, Bills at the Jets. For the Bills, I'm starting Stephon Diggs, and I will take a chance on Gabe Davis. Yes, I know he can be boom or bust. Diggs is the easy one, top 10 wide receiver. Davis, I think this can be a high-scoring affair. That's why I'm willing to take a chance on Gabe Davis. But if the matchups aren't favorable, I wouldn't force Davis into your starting lineups. For the Jets, Garrett Wilson. Yes, I think he'll be a top 10 wide receiver on the year, let alone in the week. And then, bit of a surprise, I'm starting Randall Cobb ahead of maybe an Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard a little bit banged up right now. I think that, you could see him as a decoy, maybe as a blockers, things like that. So to kick things off, I have Randall Cobb here as a start. Again, in a favorable matchup where you're going to see a lot of points, in my opinion. I think Cobb can have some upside here. But with that, we wrap up our Week 2 fantasy wide receiver starts and sits for every single matchup. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section, do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.